Thank you, Ern. I think others have been very pleased to hear that, Grace. I'm sorry, I'm going to break up, but I'm still going to do this. Mother had a very full life, and her and Dad certainly leave a legacy. 5 children who have produced 15 grandchildren, 20 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. I would like to take a few moments to lead you on a journey of her life, and there will be much I will leave out because of time and my memory, but it all began on October the 27th, 1914, just after World War I broke out. Her dad had gone to war, and she didn't see him again for over 4 years, which I think Rosemary might have made her always want to have a man in her life. Not sure, but she really was very keen on men and not so keen on women, I'm sorry to say that. She was married in 1937 and had 3 children during World War II. And I look back and think how horrid it must have been as the planes were emptying their bombs over the North Norfolk coast as they went back to Germany from Coventry and Birmingham to raise a family in those circumstances. I don't think we have any idea in our peaceful world just how hard it must have been to have 3 young children in a very, very unstable world at that time. Mum and Dad had a small business, running a market garden and a florist shop, and worked very hard bringing up 5 children. We had an idyllic childhood as we lived near the sea in an area very much like Corner Inlet, and I think that's what attracted them to this area, that it was very, very much like the Norfolk coast. We were also very much insulated from post-war Britain, as Dad had an amazing garden, and he was also good with the shotgun. So rabbits with buckshot were often a feature of the table. But as children, I don't think we ever really minded that. We had a lot of food on the table, we had the produce from the garden, and we didn't really even know what it was like to suffer like people in the cities did. Moving on to 1973, we emigrated. And Mum and Dad did a round-the-world trip to visit us. Dad so fell in love with Australia that he went back home, sold up, and followed us out here. And this was much to the disgust of the family back home. I still don't think they've ever forgiven them, but it's a bit too late for that now. Looking back, it was a very brave move, as they were in their 60s, and Dad came out in a wheelchair, crippled with arthritis. First thing they did was settle in Foster, buy a little house in Jones Street, and Dad dug the garden. So Australia was obviously very good for them, and it was the start of their wonderful retirement. They bowled, travelled when the garden allowed, which was in the winter, and lived near the school. So thankfully for us, they saw a lot of James and Marion. Really helped us with the dairy farm that they were near the school, and we could rely on them to fetch them from school if we were busy. They did a lot of walking at Venus Bay, bird watching, and of course gardening, which was Mum's and Dad's greatest love, apart from, as Ern said, the Bible. Mother was a pioneer of her time, starting off as a school teacher, running a business, raising 5 children, starting a life in Foster, and travelling the world right into her 80s. She achieved her lifelong ambition when she was over 80 of visiting Israel and the Holy Land. Thankfully not with me, but with my brother. I think he found it quite hard work, but she did do it. And then she trained to be a lay preacher in the church. And she has a certificate for 10 years of lay preaching, of which she was very proud. She was very fond of the Welsh Full United Church, heavily involved in supporting the Red Cross with Eva, and running regular Bible groups from her home. She was a very determined lady, who may not always have seen eye to eye with everyone, which was probably a little bit of an understatement. But her energy and drive meant she achieved a lot. After Dad died, however, Mother frequently said she wished she was with him, as they did everything together. I would just like to thank the staff at Conview Lodge and Banksy Lodge for caring for Mum so much. Nothing was too much trouble, and I can't thank them enough. I would also like to thank David for all he did over the years. In fact, I'm sure some people thought that she was his mother-in-law. so I needed him as my conscience. She had a very strong Christian belief, which stayed with her right to the end. And I'm sure